Hi, and welcome to this week's episode. One of the things that I wanted to do this week is talk about how I route guitars into the Maschine. Typically, I would run my guitar through this thing called a quad cortex, which is like an external sort of amp modeler from a company called Neural DSP. That works really well, but they also have all these VSTs that are really amazing that run on my computer as software. Neural DSP has a bunch of them, and other companies make them as well. So what I wanted to know was, how would I run my guitar through the software emulation and into the Maschine, the processed audio going back out to the Maschine? And the answer wasn't really that straightforward, but I believe I figured out how to do it. Several ways that you could route your guitar into the Maschine, and you could use it to sample your guitar and make chops and all that. So let's get started. Starting up here, I have sort of a simple Maschine session, a little sort of almost like trap type melody that I'll play a bit of right here. Okay, you get it. So drums on the first group, sort of the piano melody on the second group, and the third group I want to add the guitars. The easiest, most direct way to do it is through direct input. So you go out of the line output from whatever your hardware is, whether that be a quad cortex, an X effects, some line 6 gears, some sort of other like Boss pedal, and then you go into the back of your Maschine into line 1. The first thing I'm going to do is create a pattern, and then right here click this little plus and go to internal and sampler, because we want to, you can use the audio as well, but it doesn't quite work the same. For now, we're going to stick with sampler, and we may go into detail about the difference between the two later on. So after you have a sampler, and then you go to click this little sort of audio waveform here, and you can already see that there's an audio source, which is probably my microphone right now. Let's see. So source, and then I want to do, let's see, external mono, and input 1L. Let me pick up my guitar here. Alright, so you can see, you can hear my guitar, but so it's playing through my audio interface, but it's not coming through the Maschine. So let me see. There we are. So line in on the Maschine, line in 1 appears to be input 3. And I don't know, maybe I need to look into that more. But that's kind of what you get here. So if I play the guitar. Alright. So, I mean, obviously now let me record a little bit to see, if it is the process signal and everything. So I'm going to put this I like to put it on detect. And that way, what it will do is it will detect the signal is hit a certain loudness before it starts recording. I kind of like to do that because sometimes I find it hard to start on the bar, like I'm just not ready to play yet. So with this, it feels like more like an open jam session to me that I just like to go back and chop up. So yeah, so we're going to put detect, and then you can move this little threshold here, and so I'm clearly over the threshold there, and the quiet parts are not causing it to record. So when you're ready to record, all right, let's start the loop. Actually, let's not start the loop now. Let's just show you, see if this works. So we'll hit start, and start will sort of start the process of recording, but it won't start recording until it detects the signal that's hit the threshold. All right. Great Maschine music, right? All right, so now you can press play or hit the pad. Maybe, let's see. There we go. All right, so you can hear the sound. It's a little quiet. There are ways to fix that. I can just turn up my external volume, or you can normalize a slice in Maschine, again, sort of outside the context of this recording, but you get how that works. Okay, so I found a jam that I like kind of over the top of this melody, and I'm ready to lay it down. So what I'll do is I'll start the melody, and then I'll start the, I'll click start here in the sampling recording, and we'll lay it down. Stop that, and once we play it back, we should be able to hear it. All right. There we go. And so, you know, what we could do here is we could start going into slicing, and we could, you know, slice this up onto actually, let me see, let me get this slice here. Can you do it this way? Let's see, I want where the first slice is. That's not it. Okay, now that I've laid this down, and if I wanted to chop it up, I can just go into slice mode here. I can grab my slice tool. Again, you can do this on the hardware, but so I'll, you know, start slicing here. Let's see. Oh, not that much. Oh. Sometimes I find this easier to do on the hardware, actually. There you go. Like, so you can go through there and slice it up, you know, however you wanted it. I want to apply, and then I'm going to press the group button, and then hit OK. And now, when we go back to the pads, there we go. All right, that's one way. Not the best chops, but you get the idea of what we're doing here. We're not trying to make really good chops right now. We're just trying to show you how to route your guitar into the machine and into the sampler. So now you're ready to sort of make a song with this. But that's great for if you have external hardware. But what happens if you don't have external hardware? You know, external hardware is expensive, but the VSTs are really good, and they're way less expensive. Okay, so what I have here is a sort of VST application from Neural DSP. It's they released their plugins as like VSTs and also standalone applications, and I kind of like the standalone applications a lot better when I'm jamming on the machine, because I don't have to worry about opening up Logic. It just seems like a faster way to get to like making music. So yeah, so what I have here is you can you can hear like a distorted guitar. and it's just going through my monitors or through my headphones, however you might be listening. But what I want to do is I want to route it into the Maschine software. And unfortunately, you can't just select this as an input. So when you go to Maschine, let's see, we'll open it up here. And you go to Preferences and Audio, there's no way to select the Neural DSP archetype, the software, as a device. So what we need to do is we need to create a virtual device that will allow us to do this. And one way I'm going to do that is by using a third-party program. I couldn't figure out how to do this without a third-party program. If you know, let me know. That'd be great. I'm on a Mac. I'm using this program called Loopback. It's from Rogue Amoeba. It's not free, but it's well worth the price if you need it to do, to do this kind of stuff. Like it's a beautiful application. And what it does is it kind of lets you route audio from application to application, as you can see here. But yeah, let's try it for our purposes. So I'm going to open it up here. When you open it up, it's obviously blank, and what we want to do is create a new virtual device, and I'm going to call this Guitar VST. Okay, now that I have this Guitar VST virtual device, I need to sort of set it up. And real quickly, what you have here are your sources, which are your applications, things that produce audio, your output channels, which are kind of virtual channels that you can use to accept input from in other applications. Like for us, it'll be the Maschine. We're going to accept input from one of these output channels. And then you have your monitors, which is things obviously like monitors and headphones and stuff. And in order to be able to hear the audio, you need to route it to whatever you're using. For me, I have a universal audio interface. Some people might have a Focusrite, things like that. So now what I want to do is, okay, we have this routed, and I want to be able to hear my guitar. Let me see here. Obviously, I can't hear anything right now because I can hear the guitar passing through the sort of pass-through audio here. But what I want to do is I want to select the Nolly application, which is the guitar thing that I'm running. And now I have it. It's going to channels 1 and 2. But what I'd like to do here is to run it through channels 3 and 4, because 1 and 2 are kind of where everything passes through. And if you try to run through 1 and 2 in the Maschine, it kind of feeds back on itself. And I don't want to go too much into that. But for now, let's just pick a separate output channels here. And it creates this default stuff, which I kind of like to get rid of. All right, we'll run the left into the left, the right into the right, and I'll delete these. Okay, so now I should have, oh, and I want to run these out because I want to be able to hear my guitar as I'm playing it with no latency. Let me try again just to make sure. All right, there we go. So it's running in through, it's coming out of Nolly 1 and 2. It's going into channels 3 and 4. And then it's going out to the monitors through my Apollo interface on channels 1 and 2. All right. So what we want to do now is to set this up in Maschine. So once I go to Maschine, I want to go back to the preferences and the audio. And what we want to do is select the new virtual instrument, or the new virtual input interface, new virtual interface that we created. So ours is Guitar VST. And okay, this is really important for the input and output routings. For the input, you need you need 3 and 4. These kind of confusing the way they're named. So 3 and 4 need to be here. And on the output, you need 1 and 2, because our virtual interface needs to be both an input and an output, but we want to output everything but only input the guitars. That's why we routed them through channels 3 and 4. Okay, once you have that set, you can close this, and you should, if you press play on your loop on your machine, you should hear your track. If you don't have that, if you don't hear that, then something has went wrong. You have to kind of go back over the steps. But I'm going to assume everything is good and grab my guitar. Alright, so we can hear my guitar coming out of the audio interface, but we can't hear it, or it's not moving this. So let's swap this to, first let's create a new group, and then we'll go here and create a sampler. Set the polyphony to 1. Again, all this stuff is I went over in the first part of the video. Okay, now we're on record, so I want to select, let's select stereo. All right. And another bit of confusing sort of stuff here is, now we want the external source to be input 1L, because if you look back here, you'll see that we routed input 1L to 3 and 4 here. So that's why I wasn't able to see it. All right, now I can see my guitar signal. I can hear my loop. And we're good. So now we're ready to start laying down stuff with the guitar VST. Okay, now I have Logic fired up here. I have my guitar running into Logic. I have an Archetype Tim Henson. It's a guitar VST from Neural DSP as well. And if I grab my guitar here and strum, you should hear my guitar. Alright, so now what we want to do is basically the same thing we did last time. Instead of using the Archetype app as the input source, we'll use Logic. So the cool thing about this is you could run other effects on this guitar track and then run them straight into the machine with all this processing on it, which is kind of neat. Alright, now we want to open up loop back again, and I've already set this up, but you can see based on the other example that we set up earlier, this is how it looks. We're running out of Logic. We need to make sure we're running into channels 3 and 4, and yeah, so you don't need to route channels 3 and 4 to the output, because we already hear the Logic output, which is where the guitar is running through. Just FYI. Alright, so now that we have that set up, again, if you need any help with this, refer back to the last chapter of setting up this guitar VST, because we went into detail there. Now, we'll open up Maschine again. We'll go to Maschine Preferences, and then we'll look in here in the Preferences, and we'll need to swap this to Logic VST. Alright, and again, this is the important part. Make sure to select N1L and N1R as 3 and 4, and then swap to your outputs and set out and out L and R to 1 and 2. Again, that makes sure you can hear your guitar through the sampler and not the rest of the audio. So again, at this point, you should be able to hear your melody. If you have one recorded and you press play, good. We can hear ours. And now, so this is typically what we want to do is create a group. Getting ahead of myself here. Create a group. Go down to the sampler part, and then set this to sampler. We'll set the polyphony to 1, which is not really relevant for this video, but we'll do it anyway. And typically this is set to internal, but I want to set external mono, and I want to set the mode to detect. The reason being is it's kind of a way of freeform playing the guitar, and it just detects once your guitar hits this threshold, and then it'll start recording. And then I set the monitor to on. So we should see a signal. There we go. The signal is just meeting the threshold, and we should be good to record now. So if we start loop and then press start, it's waiting for input. Another hacky job there. And okay, so we have a recording here, and if we play it back by pressing the pad, let me press it harder. There's our process signal coming from Logic into Maschine. Check that out. And then if we go to slice, of course we can slice it up however we want to and assign it to pad. But yeah, that's it. That's 3 ways that you can get your guitar process signal into Maschine. I think it's really exciting to be able to go straight out of Logic into the Maschine, because you could run your guitar through like a, some sort of lo-fi effects processor before you went into the Maschine if you wanted to. Yeah, all sorts of possibilities. If you create anything again with this, let me know in the comments. I'd love to check it out. Otherwise, have fun. Keep shredding.